Imagine holding a tiny silver dime in your hand, something most people would ignore, something tossed in a jar, forgotten in a drawer, and yet that same dime could be worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars today. This is the shocking reality of United States coin history, where the smallest denomination has created some of the biggest legends. In this video, we are diving deep into the top 5 most valuable one-dime coins ever struck by the United States. Mint coins born from mistakes, rarity wars, economic crises, and moments in American history that changed money forever. These are not just coins. They are survivors, witnesses to war, depression, innovation, and human error. Each of these dimes has a story that begins with everyday pocket change and ends in elite auctions, vaults, and museum collections. From the mysterious missing mint mark that shocked collectors to the dime that was never supposed to exist and now sells for the price of a house, this countdown will completely change how you look at every dime you touch. If you have ever wondered whether a single coin could rewrite your financial future, stay locked in, because by the end of this video, you will never look at a dime the same way again. This is American numismatic history at its most thrilling, most profitable, and most unbelievable.
All right, listen up, coin lovers, because this is one story that will pull you straight into the shining world of American history, where one small coin tells a giant story. Today, we dive deep into the 1967 Roosevelt dime, a 10-cent piece that carries the scars of a changing America, the whispers of economic struggle, and the gleam of innovation, all captured in one tiny circle of metal. Imagine holding in your hand a coin that was born in the middle of political tension, technological change, and a revolution inside the United States Mint. This is not just a dime. It's a witness to America's transformation in the 1960s, from the last breath of silver coinage to the rise of the modern-clad era, from the shadow of the coin shortage crisis to the historic mint mark freeze of 1965 to 1967. This dime saw it all, and today we uncover its secrets. The year was 1967. America was alive with change. The space race was in full swing. President Lyndon B. Johnson was shaping the Great Society. The Vietnam War loomed heavy over every home and deep inside the U.S. Mint. Something historic was happening. The United States had officially transitioned away from silver coinage just 2 years earlier in 1965, and by 1967 every dime struck was made from a copper-nickel-clad composition. The once beloved 90% silver dimes were now part of history, replaced by coins that symbolized a new era of practicality over precious metal. This decision was not easy for collectors or the public. Many resisted the idea of coins without silver, thinking they would feel cheap, lose their luster, or fade in value. Yet the Mint knew it had no choice. Silver prices were soaring and the cost of producing coins was becoming unsustainable. So in 1967, every Roosevelt dime produced told that story of change. The government no longer viewed coins as miniature treasures of silver, but as tools of a growing economy. This 1967 Roosevelt dime came into existence at a time when the Mint was under enormous pressure to meet national coin demand. During the early 1960s, the United States faced a serious coin shortage. Vending machines, banks, and stores were all struggling to keep small change in circulation because people were hoarding silver coins, thinking their value would rise. The Mint responded with massive production campaigns, and in 1967 alone, over 2 billion dimes were struck across the nation. But here's where things get really interesting. No mint marks were used between 1965 and 1967, meaning you cannot tell if your 1967 dime came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. This was a direct order from the Treasury Department designed to stop collectors from hoarding new issues. The mint mark freeze was controversial, but it worked. It ensured that dimes like the 1967 Roosevelt could circulate freely without being hoarded for their origin. The design of the 1967 dime remained faithful to the legacy of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose face first appeared on the dime. In 1946, following his death and his instrumental role in founding the March of Dimes, the obverse features his left-facing portrait, sculpted by John R. Sinek, with the word Liberty curving above and the motto, "In God We Trust," at his shoulder. The date 1967 sits below his neck, while the mint mark location remained empty due to the moratorium on mint marks. The reverse of the coin carries one of the most symbolic designs in American coinage, an olive branch representing peace, a torch symbolizing liberty, and an oak branch standing for strength and independence. These three elements together tell the story of what America stood for during and after World War II. And in 1967, those values were being tested in every part of American life. Now, let's explore the composition and minting process, because that's where the story becomes even more fascinating. The 1967 dime is made of a clad composition, 2 layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it a total weight of 27 grams and a diameter of 17.9 millimeters. The mint used advanced bonding and rolling techniques to ensure that the copper core and nickel layers formed a single solid blank. Before striking, this innovation was necessary to produce billions of coins quickly and cost-effectively. The minting presses of the 1960s were pushed to their limits, striking at high speeds and pressures to meet the nation's demand. Every 1967 dime bears those microscopic strike marks and imperfections that tell the story of industrial intensity behind its creation. Even though billions were made, there are unique varieties that collectors hunt for today. Some 1967 dimes show strong die doubling, especially on the word liberty and the motto E pluribus unum. Others have full torch details on the reverse, which numismatists refer to as full bands, meaning the horizontal lines on the torch are fully struck and separated. This feature indicates a sharp and precise strike, making such coins highly desirable. In mint state grades, proof-like specimens also exist, though officially proofs were not struck for circulation in 1967. However, special mint sets or SMS coins were produced that year, and these are unique in their appearance and quality. The 1967 SMS dimes exhibit a satiny or mirror-like finish, superior to regular strikes, and are found only in government-issued sets from that year. These special coins were produced at the San Francisco Mint. Though they bear no mint mark, they represent some of the finest craftsmanship of the era. The special mint sets themselves replaced proof sets from 1965 to 1967 during the mint mark suspension period. They were the mint's way of providing collectors with high-quality examples without encouraging hoarding or speculation. The 1967 SMS dime is known for its sharp details and often distinctive die polishing marks, giving it an almost proof-like look. Collectors today prize these sets for their historical importance since they mark the final year before the return of proof coinage in 1968, after the mint mark ban was lifted. In the modern collector market, the 1967 dime remains both common and special. Common because of its high mintage, but special because of what it represents an end and a beginning at the same time. In circulated grades, it holds only face value, but in high mint state or SMS condition, it can fetch anywhere from $10 to several $100s, depending on quality and rarity. The highest graded examples with full torch details or SMS cameo contrast are among the most valuable, yet even a simple worn 1967 dime in your pocket. Today is a direct link to that turning point in American coinage history beyond its physical features. The 1967 Roosevelt dime reflects a nation balancing tradition and progress. It stands for the resilience of American innovation, the adaptability of its minting systems, and the economic realities that shaped mid-century policy. It is a coin that reminds us that even the smallest denomination carries the weight of its time. From the struggles of inflation and hoarding to the march of industrial modernization, the 1967 dime captures that transition perfectly. Have you ever held a small silver-colored coin in your hand and wondered if it carried a story worth more than its face value? Today, we dive deep into the world of one such unassuming coin, the 1973 Roosevelt dime, a piece that millions of people used every day without realizing that within its tiny circular frame lies a tale of history, craftsmanship, economics, and American identity. This is not just a 10-cent coin. It is a symbol of post-war optimism, technological innovation, and the enduring legacy of one of America's most beloved presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Welcome to a journey through time, a story that begins in the early 20th century and leads us all the way to the presses of the United States Mint in 1973, the Geeky year that produced a coin many collectors now seek for its subtle details, its unique varieties, and its historical significance. To truly understand the 1973 Roosevelt dime, we must first step back to 1946, the year this design was first introduced. Less than a year after President Roosevelt's passing, his image replaced the Mercury dime, which had adorned American pockets since 1916. The change was not merely artistic but symbolic. The country wanted to honor the man who guided the nation through the Great Depression and the Second World War, and whose New Deal policies had reshaped modern America. The dime was chosen because of Roosevelt's long association with the March of Dimes campaign to combat polio, a disease that had affected him personally for years. So when the 1973 dime rolled off the minting presses, it wasn't just another coin. It was part of an unbroken chain of tribute to the man whose leadership had redefined the American spirit. By the early 1970s, America was a nation in transition. The Vietnam War had shaken confidence, inflation was rising, and the dollar's value was under pressure. The Coinage Act of 1965 had already changed the composition of American coins, forever eliminating silver from the dime and quarter, and introducing the copper-nickel-clad composition that remains today. Thus, the 1973 dime was no longer made of precious metal, but of a more practical sandwich of copper core and nickel outer layers, a move meant to preserve the coinage system amid rising silver prices. Yet this material change did not diminish the artistry or precision that went into its creation. On the obverse was Roosevelt's left-facing portrait, designed by John R. Sinek, whose initials JS appear just below. The neck and on the reverse was a design representing strength and unity, a torch for liberty flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch symbolizing strength with the motto, E pluribus unum, binding them together. The mints responsible for the 1973 dimes were Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each playing a key role in the American monetary system. Philadelphia, the oldest mint and the nation's mother mint, produced circulation coins without a mint mark. Denver produced its coins bearing the D mint mark, while San Francisco struck primarily proof coins for collectors identified by an S mark. The proof coins from San Francisco were struck using specially polished dies and planchets, resulting in mirror-like surfaces, and frosted designs creating a stunning contrast admired by numismatists around the world. The total mintage for 1973 was immense, more than 455 million from Philadelphia, around 455 million from Denver, and about 7 million proof coins from San Francisco, despite its massive production. There is something quietly special about the 1973 dime, because this was an era when small variations in strike pressure, die wear, and planche preparation could result in coins. With subtle yet fascinating differences, collectors began to notice these variations. Some coins displayed full torch lines on the reverse, a sign of a strong strike, while others showed soft details indicating worn dies or slightly misaligned hubs. These small differences turned ordinary pocket change into items of study for serious numismatists seeking the elusive perfect strike. The so-called full bands or full torch designation on the reverse became a mark of quality and rarity, and those examples in pristine condition today can fetch surprising premiums, especially in higher mint state grades graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC. The history of the 1973 dime cannot be separated from the technological developments of the United States Mint. During this time, the early 70s saw major improvements in die preparation and minting machinery, allowing faster production and better quality control, yet errors still slip through. And these errors are what excite collectors the most. Among the known varieties of the 1973 dime are off-center strikes, die cracks, double strikes, and broad strikes, each representing a moment where man met machine, and something unusual was born. The most valuable examples can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and error type, while a flawless proof from San Francisco with deep cameo contrast remains a prized addition to any Roosevelt dime collection, but beyond its metal and mintage numbers. The 1973 dime also stands as a witness to an era of cultural change. It circulated during a time when gas prices first began to soar. When the United States was shifting from the optimism of the 1960s to the realism of the 1970s, it bought cups of coffee, newspapers, and candy bars. It passed through the hands of working Americans, students, and soldiers returning home. It jingled in the pockets of millions as the Watergate scandal unfolded on television, and as the nation prepared for a new economic reality. Every worn surface tells a micro-story of daily American life, an unspoken connection between citizens and the government that issued their currency. Collectors often ask why a coin like the 1973 dime holds such fascination when It is so common the answer lies in the layers of meaning hidden within what seems ordinary. This dime bridges the gap between artistry and industry, between remembrance and utility. It reflects the persistence of a national ideal that even the smallest denomination should carry dignity and purpose. For the modern collector, studying a 1973 dime means studying the evolution of minting technology, the economic history of a turbulent decade, and the enduring influence of Roosevelt's image on American iconography. It is a journey through die varieties, metal compositions, historical context, and collector psychology, all converging in a 10-cent coin. Today, grading companies have authenticated countless 1973 dimes in grades ranging from circulated XF40 to Mint State 68. The higher the grade, the sharper the detail, the brighter the luster, and the higher the value. A perfect strike with full torch lines and clean surfaces can easily stand out among thousands. The proof coins, especially those with deep cameo contrast, show the pinnacle of mint craftsmanship of the era, while circulation strikes from Philadelphia and Denver tell the everyday story of America's economy. Coin-by-coin collectors pay special attention to mint set coins from 1973, which often display better luster and strike than those found in pocket change, making them favorites for registry sets and competitive grading. As you hold a 1973 dime, consider how much history sits in that small piece of metal, from the spirit of Roosevelt to the economic shifts of the 1970s, from minting precision to collector obsession. This coin carries the echoes of generations. It connects past and present, reminding us that value is not only measured in dollars but in stories, legacy, and the craftsmanship of those who shaped our currency. So next time you spot a dime dated 1973, don't overlook it. Look closer under the light. Admire its portrait, its lettering, its torch and branches, and realize you are holding a small but mighty monument to American resilience and history. Have you ever held a small silver-colored dime in your hand and wondered if that tiny coin could hold the secrets of American history, the story of power, politics, metal shifts, and economic changes, all hidden in a piece that weighs less than 3 grams? Today, we open the vault of time and travel back to the year 1974, a year when America was transforming politically, socially, and economically. And in the midst of all that change, a little coin called the 1974 Roosevelt dime quietly rolled out of the U.S. Mint and into circulation. But behind that humble appearance lies a story of innovation, scarcity, hidden varieties, and the evolution of the American currency system. Welcome to the most detailed journey ever told about the 1974 dime, where we uncover the untold facts, the rare minting errors, the silver debate, and the collector secrets that make this coin one of the most fascinating pieces in the modern numismatic era. So sit back and prepare yourself for a deep dive into the world of the 1974 Roosevelt dime, where every ridge, every shine, and every mint mark tells a chapter in the story of American coinage. The story of the 1974 Roosevelt dime begins nearly 3 decades earlier, when the dime was redesigned to honor one of America's most beloved presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. The man who led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, his passing in 1945, was a moment of deep national mourning, and the U.S. Mint quickly moved to honor him on the dime, a coin that had already become a symbol of national health due to its association with the March of Dimes charity launched to fight polio, the disease that Roosevelt himself battled throughout his life. The first Roosevelt dime was released in 1946, designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, featuring the left-facing bust of Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse, representing liberty, peace, and strength. Fast forward to 1974, America was emerging from the turbulent 1960s and was facing a decade of economic challenges. Inflation was rising, the Vietnam War had recently ended, and the Watergate scandal was shaking the foundation of the U.S. government. Amid all these national events, the Mint continued its operations with precision and consistency, producing coins for commerce that carried both symbolic and practical value. The 1974 Roosevelt dime became part of this era of transition. By 1974, the dime was made entirely of copper and nickel, no longer containing any silver, a change that had occurred less than a decade earlier in 1965 when silver prices soared and the As Mint shifted away from precious metals, the dime now had a composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, with a total weight of 2.27 grams and a diameter of 17.9 millimeters. The switch to clad coinage had been controversial at first, with many collectors and citizens lamenting the loss of silver, but by the mid-1970s, the copper-nickel dimes had fully become part of everyday circulation. The production of the 1974 dime took place at three main facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. The Philadelphia dimes bore no mint mark as was standard at the time. The Denver Mint coins carried the D mark, and the San Francisco Mint primarily focused on proof coinage for collectors marked. With an S mint mark, the total mintage for 1974 was enormous, over 1.3 billion coins struck across all facilities. This made it one of the most widely distributed dimes in the modern era. But despite the high production numbers, some varieties and quality differences began to emerge, making certain 1974 dimes more desirable among collectors. Collectors often study the minute details that set coins apart, and in the case of the 1974 dime, there are a few notable varieties. One of the most discussed is the 1974 S proof dime, which was produced with exceptional, mirror-like surfaces for collectors. These proof coins were struck multiple times on polished planchets, resulting in a sharp design and deep cameo contrast between the frosted devices and reflective fields. These coins were never intended for circulation, but today they remain among the finest examples of the Roosevelt dime series. Errors and varieties also add intrigue to the 1974 dime story. Misstrikes, off-center errors, and double-die obverses are occasionally found. Though rare, they can significantly increase the coin's value among specialists. Some examples of 1974 dimes show weak strikes or partial collars, where the coin's edge was not fully formed during minting, giving it an unusual shape. Others display die cracks or planchet flaws that create unique features, making each coin one of a kind for serious numismatists. Such errors are treasures that combine artistry, accident, and history in one small metallic disc. The year 1974 itself was a pivotal one for the U.S. Mint technology was improving, quality control was becoming more precise, and coin design discussions were underway. As America prepared for its bicentennial celebrations in 1976, the Mint was also transitioning leadership and modernizing equipment. To meet the increasing demand for circulation coins and collector sets, the Roosevelt dime continued to hold its place in commerce as the workhorse coin widely used for vending machines, parking meters, and everyday transactions. As we dig deeper into the economic context of 1974, we see how inflation and changes in metal prices impacted coin production. The face value of 10 cents was losing purchasing power, yet the cost of producing the coin remained efficient due to the non-precious metal composition. This balance between cost and utility was vital to maintaining stable coinage in a volatile economy. The decision to stick with the copper-nickel clad composition proved to be both economically sound and durable, as these coins have stood the test of time, with millions still in circulation today. From a design perspective, the Roosevelt dime of 1974 remained faithful to John Sinek's original 1946 concept, though slight modifications had been made to improve die life and strike sharpness. Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse conveys dignity and strength, while the reverse design continues to symbolize the ideals of freedom, peace, and resilience that define both the man and the nation. He led this continuity. In design over decades reflects a rare stability in U.S. coinage where symbolism transcends generations. When examining mint sets and proof sets from 1974, collectors can trace subtle distinctions in luster tone and die polishing techniques. Proof sets from San Francisco often display the deep cameo effect that modern collectors prize, while business strikes from Denver and Philadelphia reveal the characteristics of mass production, including contact marks and surface abrasions from high-speed minting processes. Yet even in these common circulation pieces, there is artistry. The intricate reading on the edge, the sharp definition of Roosevelt's features, and the balanced layout of the reverse design all demonstrate the mint's craftsmanship. For coin collectors today, the 1974 Roosevelt dime holds more than just a place in change drawers. It represents a bridge between the silver era of U.S. coinage and the modern clad era. It is a coin that embodies technological evolution, economic adaptation, and the enduring image of a leader who changed the course of American history. Its affordability makes it accessible to new collectors, while its variations and proofs offer depth for advanced numismatists. Those who study the minute details of the coin find that even the most common examples tell a story of how America minted its identity through metal during a time of transformation. We approach the conclusion of this exploration. We must reflect on what makes the 1974 dime significant, not for its rarity, but for its representation of continuity amidst change in a nation redefining itself politically and economically. The dime stood unchanged, steadfast, and familiar, a reminder of stability in the palm of every citizen. Whether found in pocket change or sealed in a collector's case, the 1974 Roosevelt dime remains a timeless symbol of American history, a small coin with a massive story and a lasting legacy. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of American history, a single coin that carries with it the story of an entire era. A coin so ordinary that millions passed it by without a second glance, yet so significant that collectors today chase it with burning curiosity. This is the 1983 Roosevelt dime, a coin born in the early 1980s, a time of economic recovery, inflation challenges, technological advancements, and changing priorities for the United States Mint. This is not just a dime. It is a witness to one of the most overlooked but fascinating chapters in modern American numismatics. The year was 1983. Ronald Reagan was president. The United States was on a path toward economic renewal, and the Mint was working tirelessly to produce billions of circulating coins after the metal shortages and economic turbulence of the 1970s. Coin production was booming again. But behind that shiny metallic surface of the 1983 dime lies a deep and layered story of transition, innovation, and discovery that many collectors today still find endlessly captivating. To understand the 1983 one dime, we must begin with the roots of its design, a tribute to Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, whose legacy of leadership during the Great Depression and World War II earned him immense respect and admiration. In 1946, the year following his death, the United States Mint introduced the Roosevelt dime, replacing the winged Liberty Head, or Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. The new dime was meant not only as a piece of currency, but as a symbol of hope and gratitude towards a man who had led the nation through some of its darkest years. Designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the Mint, the dime featured the left-facing portrait of Roosevelt, the word liberty on the left, the motto, "In God We Trust" below, and the date to the right. The reverse side displayed a torch flanked by olive and oak branches symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Fast forward to 1983, the Roosevelt dime had already been in production for nearly 4 decades. But that year was far from ordinary in the world of coins. 1982 had seen a massive change in the cent when the Mint switched from copper to copper-plated zinc due to rising metal prices. Although the dime had not undergone such a dramatic transformation, the same pressures on metal supply and cost efficiency loomed large. The dime since 1965 had been struck in a copper-nickel-clad composition with a pure copper core. This composition remained the same in 1983, but subtle shifts in production quality, minting standards, and die-wear patterns would make this year's dime a magnet for collectors. The 1983 dime was minted at 3 locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint marked with a D, and the San Francisco Mint, which created proof coins marked with an S. The Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 647 million dimes that year. Denver produced more than 730 million, and San Francisco contributed just over 3 million proof coins. At first glance, these numbers suggest that the 1983 dime was incredibly common, and indeed in circulation it was but coin collectors and numismatists. Know that rarity is not just about quantity, it is about condition errors and survival rates. Here's where the story takes an intriguing turn. The early 1980s were a difficult time for collectors seeking high-grade circulation. Coins the United States Mint did not sell uncirculated sets in 1982 or 1983, a decision driven by budget constraints and declining demand for mint sets that meant that the only way to obtain pristine examples of 1983 dimes was from rolls or bags released directly to banks in circulation. Most of these coins entered daily commerce, where they were quickly worn down, scratched, or lost. making Gem Mint state examples of 1983 dimes, especially from Philadelphia and Denver, exceptionally difficult to find today. Collectors value the 1983 dime for this very reason. High-grade examples graded MS67 or above can fetch significant premiums because few were preserved in such perfect condition. Beyond the standard circulation strikes, the San Francisco Mint produced proof. Dimes which were struck with specially prepared dies and polished planchets, resulting in mirror-like finishes. These proof coins were sold to collectors as part of the annual proof sets and remain a staple in numismatic collections. But the 1983 dime's allure doesn't stop there. It also carries the intrigue of error varieties and die anomalies known to appear that year. Among the most notable are off-center strikes, die cracks and broad strikes that occurred due to high production pressure, and mechanical imperfections. One particularly fascinating variety includes the 1983 dime struck on a copper planchet error, an extremely rare minting mishap where a dime was mistakenly struck on a copper blank intended for another denomination. This kind of error transforms an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Beyond physical characteristics, the 1983 dime symbolizes a period of industrial modernization within the mint. During this time, the mint was integrating new coining presses, automated die preparation systems, and improved quality control technologies. The 1983 dime thus reflects the evolving craftsmanship and precision of American minting as it moved toward the computer-aided production era. As the years passed, the 1983 dime circulated through millions of hands. It bought small items, paid tolls, and jingled in the pockets of working Americans. Yet hidden among these everyday coins were a few pristine survivors, coins that escaped the wear of time preserved by chance, or by sharp-eyed collectors. These survivors tell the story of how a coin that once seemed ordinary became an object of fascination. Numismatically, the 1983 dime represents more than a date. It represents a test of patience for collectors who seek to assemble high-grade runs of Roosevelt dimes from every year. Because of the lack of mint sets, this coin and its 1982 sibling remain the key challenges for modern dime enthusiasts. Even professional grading services like PCGS and NGC report relatively few top-graded specimens, making them cornerstones of modern coin series completion. Now imagine diving deeper into its journey from the mint presses of Philadelphia and Denver to the pockets of citizens across the country, each coin bearing microscopic clues about the dies that struck it, the machines that fed it, and the workers who inspected it. We uncover not just the technical history, but also the human story behind it, the engravers, the mint engineers, and the countless unseen people whose labor shaped a coin that would one day captivate collectors around the world. The 1983 dime is a bridge between generations, between an older America that still used coins as daily lifelines and a newer one on the verge of digital transformation. It carries both the simplicity of a pocket change relic and the depth of a collectible artifact. It tells of resilience of production during economic recovery, of the quiet artistry of mint engravers, and the passion of collectors who find beauty in the smallest metallic detail. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary that millions walk past it every day without noticing, but inside that tiny piece of metal hides a silent story of American pride, industrial perfection, and numismatic beauty? Today, we step into the world of the 1987 Roosevelt dime, a coin that at first glance looks just like every other dime in your pocket. But when we look deeper, we uncover the fascinating layers of its creation, its history, its design, and the legacy that connects it directly to the spirit of the United States itself. Welcome to a journey through time, minting artistry, economics, and the secrets of one of the most overlooked yet historically rich dimes in American coinage. The 1987 Roosevelt dime is not just a 10-cent coin, it is a product of decades of evolution in American currency, a living continuation of the design that honored the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. His leadership inspired hope and unity, and after his death in 1945, the nation needed a way to commemorate his legacy that would endure in every citizen's hand. That is why in 1946, the Roosevelt dime was born, replacing the Mercury dime, which itself was an icon of early 20th century design by sculptor Adolph A. Weinman. But the new dime, created by chief engraver John R. Sinek, became a fresh symbol of America's post-war optimism and progress. By the time 1987 arrived, the Roosevelt dime had already traveled through more than 4 decades of change. The metal composition had evolved from silver to copper-nickel clad due to the Coinage Act of 1965, which eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters because of rising silver prices. The 1987 dime was struck in this modern clad composition, consisting of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving it durability and a distinct silver-like appearance that would last for generations. This change not only reflected economic necessity, but also technological innovation in minting and metallurgy. The year 1987 itself was an interesting time for the United States, both economically and culturally. It was a period of growth mixed with challenges. Ronald Reagan was president, the Cold War was nearing its end, and the American Mint was running efficiently through advanced minting technologies. The U.S. Mint produced the 1987 Roosevelt dime at 3 primary facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint, each with its own mint mark P, D, and S respectively, though the Philadelphia Mint had begun adding its P Mint mark on dimes starting in 1980, so all 1987 P coins proudly display that mark for collectors to identify. The Philadelphia Mint struck an estimated 1.07 billion Roosevelt dimes in 1987, while the Denver Mint produced roughly 827 million, and the San Francisco Mint crafted around 4.2 million proof coins for collectors. The sheer scale of production demonstrates the dime's essential role in commerce, daily transactions, vending machines, and circulation. This level of precision required advanced coin presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, while maintaining consistent detail on both sides of each dime, on the obverse or front side of the 1987 dime. You find the left-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt designed by John R. Sinek. His initials JS appear at the base of Roosevelt's neck, though for years after its release, some conspiracy theories claimed those initials referred to Joseph Stalin, but the truth remained clear. Sinek had been a loyal engraver of the U.S. Mint since 1925, and his initials were simply his artist's mark above Roosevelt's image. Appear the words "Liberty" and the motto, "In God We Trust." With the year 1987 struck clearly at the bottom, the delicate sculpting of Roosevelt's face shows depth in his hairlines and subtle shadows that were impressive for the time considering the coin's small size. The reverse design is equally rich in symbolism, featuring a torch at the center, flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right, representing liberty, peace, and strength respectively. Above them reads the motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one. The composition is compact, balanced, and elegant, capturing both the nation's ideals and the enduring value of democracy. This reverse design has remained nearly unchanged since its debut in 1946, making it one of the longest-running reverse designs in U.S. coinage history. Collectors often study minting variations and condition grades of the 1987 dime to determine its rarity or premium value. While most circulated examples remain worth face value, high-grade uncirculated pieces or proof strikes can command significantly higher prices, especially those graded MS-68 or higher by professional grading services, such as PCGS or NGC. The sharpness of detail, the brightness of luster, and the absence of contact marks all determine the final grade proof. Coins struck in San Francisco are especially prized. These were produced using specially polished dies and planchets to create mirror-like surfaces and sharp frosted details. Each proof dime from 1987 carries the S Mint mark and was sold in annual proof sets directly to collectors, not meant for general circulation. These coins were carefully handled and packaged, which explains their pristine condition. Even decades later, some collectors even seek out cameo or deep cameo proofs, which display a striking contrast between the mirrored fields and frosted raised devices. There were no major design changes or known mint errors officially recorded for the 1987 dime, but that doesn't mean there aren't unique varieties in circulation coin. Roll hunters and collectors sometimes discover off-center strikes, die cracks, or partial collar errors that make certain 1987 dimes worth far more than 10 cents a perfectly centered coin. With full strike details is the standard, but an unusual error could attract high bids from collectors, especially when authenticated and certified by a grading authority. the 1987 dime story also connects to the broader history of coin production in the 1980s, a decade of modernization for the mint. When computer-aided engraving began transforming the way dies were designed and prepared, this allowed for more precision and consistency across mint facilities. The metal blanks, or planches, were machine-fed into high-speed presses capable of producing hundreds of coins per minute, each one being automatically inspected for flaws. The level of quality control during this time helped ensure that even the simplest dime maintained high production standards. But beyond the minting statistics and technical details, the 1987 Roosevelt dime remains a reflection of America itself, a coin that has circulated through millions of hands across 4 decades of social and economic change. From vending machines to parking meters, from school lunches to subway rides, the dime has been part of countless everyday transactions, quietly carrying the image of one of the nation's most influential presidents through time, when viewed through a collector's lens. The 1987 dime marks a midpoint in the long-running Roosevelt series, bridging the early decades of silver coinage and the later modern era of clad designs. It represents the stability of American coinage design continuity and the symbolic endurance of Roosevelt's vision for the nation. Even though most 1987 dimes remain in circulation with little individual value, their historical connection makes them fascinating study pieces for numismatists in the world of numismatics. Every coin tells a story, some through rarity, others through symbolism. The 1987 Roosevelt dime tells a story of modern America's consistency, its adaptation to economic change, and its commitment to preserving national icons through everyday design. And though it may not boast the rarity of early silver issues or dramatic minting errors, its place in American history remains solid because it reminds us that not all treasures are rare. Some are simply always there. As you hold a 1987 dime next, look closer at its fine details, its torch, its lettering, the confident profile of Roosevelt, and think of the billions of identical coins traveling across time and space through wallets and generations. Each one a miniature monument to leadership, freedom, and endurance.